Photographers and artists of Reddit who work with nude or half-naked models. How do you deal with sexual arousal while on the job? Serious. Photographer here. I spend so much of my concentration on composition, lighting, sets, props, equipment and keeping the models comfortable that I've actually never experienced arousal while on the job. So I guess my tip is to put your all into the shoot and your blood should stay in the appropriate organ semicolon. I've done some VFX supervision for various fashion cosmetic companies. You're so stressed out about making the face wash splash perfect that you forget that there is a attractive woman in skin colored underwear and a towel in a fake shower. Nude model here. I model for art students, and they are much more focused on getting technique down than getting aroused. I had to ask at least once. There's a million other distractions outside of a naked chick in this kind of zone. I've never had to worry about unprofessional behavior or harassment. Just don't make eye contact. When you're painting the model, you don't look at him/her like filthy picture. You try to get the right shapes, shadows and colors that you can see in front of you. It's not very arousing progress, at least not for me. You watch the model as you would have flowers or pots there, just trying to get the most realistic imitation to paper. There was some till or another link to some article about a guy that got popular by doing nude paintings. He said that, in the beginning, he did get aroused, but then it just got to be work. It's probably one of those things that will be different for everybody. I remember my first day of art school and I was so nervous about drawing nude models. I was a virgin at the time and hadn't encountered an actual naked female ever. I thought it would be boner city while standing at my easel. Of course it turned out to be fine and oddly normal. Everyone seemed comfortable and you really are just trying to learn the technique and see the shapes. Models are all shapes and sizes of people too. I only had a few I found legitimately attractive. 4 years of drawing nudes 3 days a week for multiple hours and never had a boner due to looking a model. Not even a chub. Don't worry though, I managed to have awkward boners in just about every other life situation. Alright, I did roughly 6 years of art school. A fair amount of that is what we call life drawing. On the first day there is this "oh god, a naked person" reaction, but after about an hour of failing to draw their elbow fat because all beginners suck at things and you're just beginning to come to grips with how much suck you personally have to grapple with, so no arousal. Also, getting a male model is a lot rarer than getting a female model and most male models suck at nude modeling in comparison to the women. Your average female model is some kind of off-duty gymnast, burlesque dancer earning a few extra bucks, or another artist who, despite being a 55-year-old mother of 3, is as flexible as a cat and knows what kind of poses look fantastic from all angles. Your average male nude model is a stoned and hairy hippie who won't hold still. But speaking of arousal, it was however not uncommon to have the models get aroused. In all the instances I know of, they were male models. To an exhibitionist, I assume this is a realization of a fantasy. Please, if this is you, don't do this to people who haven't signed up for erotic sketching, something like that. There was one guy who would make eye contact and hold it with the prettiest girl in the room and proceed to pop a boner. My friend who told me this story, I don't know if he was used for more than one session or not. I think he just usually popped boners. One day, boner guy proceeded to get hard and seeped pre-cum. He apologized a couple of times and eventually ejaculated in class while holding eye contact with my friend while a room full of people were trying to draw him. I never drew boner guy, and he was not asked back. The best model we ever had was rope guy. He brought his own rope and then proceeded to pose with it. But the best thing about rope guy was not just that he was as ripped and bronzed as a Greek god with a swimsuit tan line, but that he was able to take a break, get up, walk around for a bit in a robe, and then put his body back exactly where it was before and hold the pose for as long as he wanted to. I think one of the dudes in my class ended up hooking up with rope guy. Much jealousy was expressed. Most of what life drawing teaches you is that people are all lumpy bags of meat. This both makes it easier to find the beauty in unconventional people. Lumps, wrinkles, hair, tattoos, teeth, noses, knuckles, butts, and armpits are all fascinating to draw, and easier to see the banality of beautiful people, as the practice of photoshopping and plastic surgery has the effect of making every commercially presented person look both unreal and exactly the same. What the frick, I don't know how I would react to a guy ejaculating while I was trying to draw him. Photographer here. I've never been sexually aroused shooting with a model. I'm far too busy worrying about the lighting, the background, the focus, the cropping done in camera versus how I want it to look afterwards, what I intend to do with the shot once I get it, i.e. put with others, do digital art with it, etc. I don't even see a nude person. Honestly, it's shapes, shadows, lights, curves, angles, and so on. Besides, models have cuties. Yay, I'm relevant. I was a nude model in college for the figure drawing classes at both universities for almost 2 years. It was my girlfriend's idea, but I stole it and she wouldn't ask her parents for consent, required by admin, and my mom faxed it over on her lunch break that day. It paid $15 an hour and made me technically an employee of both universities as it was not part of the work for hire program. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Everyone is super professional, except one professor hung a plum from the nape of my neck down my back and awkwardly guided the string down my butt crack to show the class my center of gravity. She also stuck stickers to me, on my hip bones and shoulders. Sometimes I had props, sometimes I had artsy images projected onto me. That was cool. The kids at the private school took things way more serious than the kids at the state school, but not in every case. One of my girlfriend's guy friends was in one class and he drew horns and capes and weird crap on me to distract himself from the awkwardness he would tell me. The question everyone asks is if I ever got hard while modeling, and the truth is just once. I was worried about it often, but I would sing to myself in my head, make the time go by, and holding poses, even the seemingly comfortable ones, is hard work sometimes. When you're quaking all over after 2 hours of the same pose, nothing is sexy. But once I was laying down on a super comfy setup at the private school, and they would shine lights all over me and had a space heater, I totally fell asleep, well dozed off during the 2 hours. Which was fine, except when I woke up Mr. Morningwood thought it was morning and within a nanosecond the terror of the situation deflated me instantly. No one saw because I was mostly on my belly. Another question I got was, isn't it super awkward? And the answer is both yes and no. Nudity isn't sex, so there's that. But you drop the robe and you're like crap. Don't make eye contact. Any cute girls? Is anyone laughing? And then your mind runs out of things to think. Then it's, well, another 2 hours to go. Can't be weird forever. Then it's normal. Then it's funny because you realize the absurdity of, this is the room I'm allowed to get naked in front of people in. If I did this anywhere else it'd be weird. Anyway, there were lots of cute artsy chicks, especially at the private school. No one ever hit on me, but they would talk to me after and even buy me drinks if they saw me out. Guys and girls alike told me I was fun to draw. I worked as a glamour photographer years ago, not the cheesy mall kind. I would do model portfolios and had my own models in the studio for my own art projects. I have worked with incredibly hot women in every scenario from fashion to straight up pornographic. It was always a flirty and sexually charged atmosphere. However, every time I was in the studio with the actual person, I was totally focused on lighting, composition and little things like the two-stop shadow under her left boob. We tried new poses, props, etc. until you was out of film. Then, as she dressed again, I am focused on making sure my equipment was stored and ready to leave, and we scheduled a time to review proofs. Later, in the darkroom when I was making contact sheets and test prints, it would all catch up to me. I'd get really turned on and I'd have to rub one out to get to sleep that night. Filmmaker here who has had to direct sex scenes. There is absolutely no arousal. No one on set is thinking about it. You're only thinking about getting the shot right. Nothing else. It's so meticulously planned that you don't have the chance to even think about your own arousal. If anyone on my sets even jokes about the sex, I will send them home. I think about the sensuality and the sexuality in terms of my actors acting, but that's about it. It's about how to translate the desired mood onto the screen. I've also had to act in a sex scene and it's harder to get it up than you think. With lights, crew, and your mind focused on acting. Quite simple. You don't become aroused. You're so concentrated on getting the drawing, painting, photo right that after a while you just totally forget that you're drawing a real naked person. I freaked for 5 seconds on my first ever life drawing class. but then the class started and I just simply didn't have time to think about it. Do you think about boobs or how hot a guy is during an exam? No, you concentrate on the exam. Simple as. If you don't, you're not going to do very well, are you? Artist here. I've never really worked with a nude model I was really attracted to, but I don't really see it being an issue. The mood and thought process just isn't the same. I think the intent with which you look at someone changes your perception of them. When I look at my model, I'm looking at shapes and composition, and that's about it. What's sexual arousal? I've been on both sides of the easel. I've drawn old people, young people, men, women, skinny bodies, curvaceous bodies. I've drawn my lover. I've drawn my mum. And I might as well be looking at a pair. The body is just a combination of angles, shapes, masses, lines, shadows, negative spaces, etc. I do get excited by the bodies, but it's less of a oh, I want to lick your muscles and oh my god, your knees, knuckles, spine, shoulders are amazing. I can't wait to draw them. And being naked doesn't make me frisky. I love life modeling because it puts me in a kind of zen state. Trying to hold a pose that is interesting to the artist for 5, 10, 30 minutes. But seriously, sexual arousal has never come into it. Back in high school, I took a uni-level life drawing classes to prepare my portfolio for uni admissions process. The mental gymnastics you think you're going to experience usually do not happen in the actual moment. I was struggling with my drawing technique. I had no time to think about arousal, which was amazing as I was a teen guy who was easy to get aroused. I quickly saw that I had limited time to do this. I had a serious goal, and just get on with learning to express the human form on paper canvas. If you are there to advance your professional artistic technique, you won't go to that place where you get into that distraction. That being said, in uni I took some more life drawing classes and had a model constantly hit on me during smoke breaks. And that became exceedingly awkward because she was a good 10 or 15 years older than me, wearing nothing but a robe and slippers, bumming cigs off me and overtly flirting with me, and rattling off the crazy talk on a pavilion in the center of campus with dozens hundred people walking by. Not sure how this story relates to your original cue. As an artist, when you are drawing, you don't think like you are drawing boobs but like drawing circles. When you are not drawing, you get aroused. I've done some nude photo shoots. I try to get out in front of it, something akin to, oh, and if you see me sprout wood, which may happen, I promise I won't use it without permission. Feel free to make fun, or ignore it, or whatever, but remember at its root it is a compliment. It's only happened a couple times to me, usually pretty busy and focused on the task at hand. Also, most girls aren't holy freaking crap wow hot. And the only adverse reaction I encountered was a jealous boyfriend who was supervising the shoot. I pointed out that I was married and tried to lighten the mood by mentioning how lucky he was to have such a beautiful lady having nudes done for him. He challenged me to a fight, pulled the card out of the camera, dropped it, pointed to it on the ground and said, "That is the only copy of the pictures I've taken. Consider it my gift to the both of you. Have a nice day," and left. She was screaming at him. I've taken nude and partial nude photographs more as a hobby and building a personal portfolio. Often I do become aroused, not usually down below but more so my mood. But if you're being serious and not just snapping pics for later, then you're really concentrated on capturing the best shot you can. Always a chase for that one photo you'll never get. In any form of photography, if you aren't into it then it's just a photo, not a good photo. Model here. After the first few nude shoots, the novelty completely wears off. It's like exposure, hair, therapy. After a while, it becomes a profound non-issue. I've even had my naked body directly painted on and felt nothing. It's like another job, even the more exotic ones. At the end of the day, you're just trying to be a decent professional and get home in time to feed the cat. That said, a lot of lower end photographers can't seem to differentiate between a sexy context and an artistic one. I've interviewed with quite a few who took it for granted that I would owe them something sexually. One offered to buy me lingerie and other gifts. His words, after I posed for him. You can see intention through that though. Who's there for the art and who isn't? If they're truly about creating a vision, they'd never be concerned with paying you in items acts other than money and probably wouldn't get aroused in the first place. If you want to know what it's like, do a Google image search of nude woman and pick one at random. Then bring it up full screen on your monitor and stare at it for 20 minutes straight doing nothing else but looking at this picture. That's what it's like, except with a real person. Straight female artist. Even the straight male artists I know say focus arousal is not a problem. Having a model is not like watching a porno or being in a bedroom with a person. It's just about the forms of their body, structure, light, interlocking masses. I never stop appreciating the beauty of the body. It's just not a sexual thing. A male who posed nude in college here. They paid us $50 a session to sit around naked. Never got an erection seeing as I was the only one naked. Attention, please keep in mind that the OP of this thread has chosen to mark this post with the serious replies only tag. Therefore any replies that are jokes, puns, off topic, or are otherwise non-contributory will be removed. If you see others posting comments that violate this tag, please report them to the mods. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot. Our auto moderator comments Q11 poo what is auto moderator, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message composed to equals %2fr%2f ask Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. I work as a life model. One time I had to fight an erection for 2.5 hours. I was flexing my calves and thighs. An LPT I learned from Reddit. Hasn't happened to me since. Ancillary question. I'm really into photography. It has been my primary hobby for years, but I never really take photos of people much. I've been trying to work on my portraiture in the past year, but I keep wanting to do more and more. Especially, and not for any perverted reasons, I've wanted to give nudes a go. But how do you approach people? What kind of credentials or attitude do you need to convey in order to convince others to let you take nudes? Additionally, how should I go about finding subjects for non-nude portraiture in general? I am too poor to pay people for it, but I would like to approach people to help build a larger portraiture portfolio. Ask your friends to model for you. I can answer this from an acting standpoint. I've had to do several fully nude scenes on stage, many times with members of the opposite sex, and I can confidently tell you it is the single least arousing thing you will ever do in your life. Many times as a working professional, whether it be on stage, behind a camera, or in front of it, you are so enveloped in your work that you don't even consider the occurrence as a sexual one. I may be attracted to a castmate, but on stage is the least sexy place imaginable. It's ridiculously non-sexual. I focused on figure drawing while in college, so I've had a lot of experience with this. You're usually so mentally drained from the exertion and focus of getting everything right you couldn't care less what the subject looks like. We once had a male model who went in and out of a partial erection the entire 3-hour period he stood for us. It wasn't by choice, and wasn't because he was aroused, as we never saw him after that. I'm guessing it was pretty humiliating for him, but no one in the class thought twice about it. No one giggled or pointed or anything. We all just left that part of the drawing undone, or made up visual information. In terms of getting aroused during the creation of a piece, it doesn't really happen, as others are mentioning. I know people who've done work whose sole purpose was titillation and they were involved in the piece, and that's a little different, but it required a huge amount of advanced setup to pull off. It has been a problem for me. I'm a woman who likes women, and we get some very attractive women in our life drawing sessions at my university. The very first time I was in that class, this beautiful woman stands on the table and disrobes, and I thought I was going to explode. But then my professor started walking around asking questions about line, form, and shadow. My professor is like Gandalf and has worked as a graphic designer and a draftsman since the 60s. I stopped caring about the beautiful naked woman and started freaking out about economy of line and accuracy of shadow. Arousal became a non-issue. TLDR. Nudity isn't necessarily sexual. Situations are, and you're divorced from experiencing the situation because you're not involved in it so much as you're an observer of it. Female photographer here. I don't get aroused while working, even if it's fetish work. I have had some dang hot models, but it's all about work on set. You're looking at how light hits them, how it's framed, focused, etc. I do look at their body obviously, but to help with adjustments, I'm trying to make it flattering too. I think the most sexual it gets is me telling them to stick something out more. I'm not a photographer, but I work in a strip club, so I have some experience with this. For any of the staff that works at the club, you kinda get desensitized to seeing naked women, even when they are being incredibly sexy in private shows or on the podiums. You more just look past that stuff. The only time you actually get aroused by it is when either it is a brand new girl and you have chemistry with her, or if there are already something intimate going on between you. Sadly, this also bleeds into real life, and unless a girl you are really into is hang all over you, you don't really notice the little flirts or revealing skirts. I imagine it is sort of the same for photographers and artists. Camera operator here. I've worked on a ton of rap videos that you've probably heard the songs too. There is usually the cliche hot chick, in all these shoots wearing skimpy clothing. Really, the stress level to do a good job is too high to even worry about getting aroused on set. It's nice to have pretty things to look at, but at the end of the day I am a professional and will act accordingly, and they are just one of many things in my frame that I am worrying about. Person who works in film and TV here. It can happen, but the setup of a film set can be quite ridiculous, and is rarely sexy from the crew's perspective. Often it is a closed set, too, meaning only key crew are allowed on set around monitors. Personally, as I work in the sound depth, the audio of an intimate scene can be arousing. I'm a hetero male who has professionally photographed several half-naked and naked attractive women. When you're working, you are concentrating on making good images. You are trying to pose a model, deal with lighting, deal with camera settings, and make artistic judgments on the foreground and background. Posing the model is harder than it sounds, especially if they are an amateur. You are constantly judging each element in the frame and trying to make each part better. You're looking at her boobs, but you aren't enjoying them. You're thinking clinically about how you might make them hotter. I've never gotten a boner on a shoot. Now, afterwards, while editing the photos, is another story. In the biz, we have a saying for a guy who is less interested in creating art and is more interested in being in the same room as a naked chick taking pics. GWC, guy with camera. There is usually little attention paid to lighting. The camera may be a DSLR, but it is probably shot on full auto mode, and he's thinking more about how hot the chick is than how he might take good pics of her. A GWC is likely to get boners. My best friend is a photographer and we used to live together and hang out a lot. A lot of times I would be at the shoots helping with lighting, body painting, or just chilling out and smoking a bowl here and there with my friend and the models. It actually was never an issue. If they are posing nude, they aren't really shy about it. Always we were focused on the shoot, never seemed very sexual. Usually they wouldn't even bother getting dressed when they could and either just hung out with us as they were or put on an open robe. It was pretty awesome, I won't lie, but only once did I ever actually get a hard on. But it wasn't a problem. It always seemed very light-hearted and natural, not sexual. For example, one girl was talking to me one time and I couldn't help but have my eyes drift towards her chest. She noticed, smiled and laughed, and told me to go ahead and feel them LOL. Another time I was doing body painting and this girl was so ticklish, she could not sit still. I had to do some on her breasts but she just couldn't stop pulling away. So I just got frustrated and grabbed her by the boob and held her there. Wasn't being super rough or anything. Although, as soon as I did it everyone there started laughing hysterically, because it was quite a humorous sight. As an art student we had a nude male model for a college photography class. He became aroused and did something nobody expected. He stuck a flower stem in his erect penis and kept posing like nothing had changed. We kept shooting like nothing had happened. When I was a student drawing and painting nude models, which I did a lot, this almost never happened. The body of the nude woman is not a sexual object for you. It's a sort of geometrical problem. A collection of lines or shades and tones and colors which you have to struggle to get down on paper or board or canvas. You are so absorbed in this problem that sex is the furthest thing from your mind. Even if you are a frisky young man, which I was, Just representing the shape and proportions and lines and shade of the body is enough of a problem to drive all other thoughts out of your mind. The one time I remember having a slight tingle in the trouser area was when a model who was quite skinny with a good body did a pose that required her to fling back her arms and push her chest forward. I did feel a slight frisson of excitement for a few seconds but rectified it by concentrating on the drawing. Almost immediately the woman's body became a sort of geometrical problem to be solved and represented to maximum effect, and not a sexual object. Honestly, you get used to it after about a week or two. In class when you are with a bunch of other people it helps because everyone is focused. Also, try not to stare into their eyes. There is a difference between a look and a stare. Also focus on the body as a form, not only its parts. When I'm photographing them, I'm usually too worried about lighting, exposure, light meter, pose, composition than anything else. That being said, tuck up to start. I shot a nude calendar for a friend a while back. I was honestly so concerned with getting the lighting right and not appearing creepy to my friend that the whole arousal thing never really crossed my mind. At the end of the day you're there to do a job, and if you're as obsessively focused on getting the job right as a lot of artists that are commissioned to do stuff like this are, then that will tend to override any potential arousal. It was a real concern of mine, even in the minutes leading up to the shoot itself, but once we started the part of my brain that dictates framing and camera settings completely took over and I just went to work as if it was just another job. I, male, worked as a nude model for art classes while I was in college. There simply isn't anything sexual about it. I was friends with many people in the class. In 1991, work-study jobs paid $7.50 an hour. Modeling for art class paid $25 an hour. $75 for a 3-hour class. I do some nude photography work. It depends what thought emotion I'm trying to express with the imagery, but if eroticism is part of it, I feel it and use that guide my work. Good question. Basically you are 100% in control of how you choose to react to any situation. During a boudoir shoot, I am concentrating on the pose list, setting up the lights in the right place, metering, camera settings, makeup, hair, clothing, background, pose, expression, emotion, etc. A lot going on. I am trying to get my images and be as professional as possible. I ask for testimonials and I love it when my clients talk about how nervous they were starting out, but how I put them at ease with my sense of humor and professionalism. So I don't want to jeopardize that. I hope to get referrals and more business from them. Do I get aroused? Of course. I am a healthy male. Do I show it or let them know? Oh heck no. Other than a little flirting to get the right emotion going, there is nothing more than that. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.